70,000 hackers flocked to Commander X's flag. So I may be the most long-winded, bombastic, ridiculous fucking persona you have ever known in your life. But serious hackers with the skills would flock to my banner by the thousands.
Yeah.
And so that gift of bullshit really came in handy, because that's where the power of Commander X lies. It's not in any single one thing that I did, or certainly none of my technical skills. It was in the ability to reach into the hearts and minds of the people who had these skill sets, and form them together into whatever size army I needed. If I needed 70,000, that's what the call went out for. And of course, that's when it gets scary, because then your top-down command and control become real shaky.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Creative Imbalance podcast. What you're listening to right now is part 2 with the leader of Anonymous, Commander X, and his pal, author Ian Thornton. This is an amazing episode. Like the first one, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you listened to the first one as well. And if you haven't listened to the first one, that is a must listen. Probably one of our best episodes, so definitely check it out. Watch, listen, whatever you do, YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all that shenanigans, SoundCloud, we're everywhere. But yeah, we're just going to pick up where we left off. So much intensity, so much passion into these episodes. And here is the face of Anonymous, Commander X, coming at you right now.
I will perfect. You can take maybe one thing, and I don't have an example at the top of my head, but one particular kind of hack, and I'm a god at it. Okay. And then you take the very next skill next door to that, and I don't know anything about it. Okay. And because I only needed to do that one thing. I became perfect. I became incredible at that one thing, because it's what I needed to do to mess with a dictator, to mess with the Vatican, to mess with whoever I was messing with at the time. To me, it's hacktivism, and that's what creates a hacktivist. That's where that word comes from. It is the mash. It is using the tools of hacking, the ideas behind hacking, but to affect political change. And that's what I am, truly. My heart is the heart of a hacktivist, because I'll do anything that will level the playing field. And I've been very honest about my youthful affiliations with Animal Liberation Front, Earth Liberation Front. Dude, if burning down your empty horse stable will keep you from fucking slaughtering horses for another fucking few weeks, I was in. No fucking problem with that. Now I got a better way, though. You see, I do appreciate the value and the historicity of Anonymous, because now I got a little bit less messy of a way, because I really feel that shutting your computer down to shut you down, which would have had the same effect, because they need computers now to do everything, is far more effective than the old school Molotov cocktail. You know what I mean?
The power of connection.
I am willing to admit that, and less messy and less cleanup, afterwards. But is either, do I have a moral distinction between either of those tools? Absolutely fucking not. It's whatever works at the time. And I will even take that so far. Many people have tried to claim that Commander X is a pacifist. I am a peaceful man. I'm like Malcolm X. Okay. I'm a peaceful man. But you lay hands on me, and I'm going to put you in the grave, dude, without a fucking hesitation. And that's a quote from Malcolm X, actually. Okay. So, and you can go too far. A government can go too far. I can easily envision a scenario where I pick up a gun and start fighting that way. Okay, because that becomes the last practical route. I am not a pacifist. I am about revolution and what works. And yes, I love information warfare because it's incredibly effective. Okay, and it has a side benefit. I'm still a moral man, still a peaceful man. I appreciate that there's less bodies in the ground after a war like that than there will be with a kinetic war. But I don't think that there's anything special about any of them. This is about what works.
You know what I mean? I thought like one thing throughout, like kind of like reading up and watching the movie about like your whole legacy, or I almost called it like the career of hacktivism and everything. But you have a certain way and brilliance of getting a mass amount of people's attention through pageantry, or just being comedic on your Twitter, and just, but it's all like honing in on an important cause. And
I have also single-handedly organized and been considered the general of the largest armies of hacktivists ever assembled in history. And I don't even know which of them to pick to say this was the biggest one, because they got so big, we don't even know how many people were in it. But we estimate that the army that I single-handedly formed to attack Israel during the first invasion of the Gaza Strip, all the way back, what was it, Operation Thunderdome or whatever, back 6 or 7 years ago, okay, 70,000, and that's from fucking the press. That's from the media, not from me. 70,000 hackers flocked to Commander X's flag. So I may be the most long-winded, bombastic, ridiculous fucking persona you have ever known in your life, but serious hackers with the skills would flock to my banner by the thousands. And so that gift of bullshit really came in handy, because that's where the power of Commander X lies. It's not in any single one thing that I did, or certainly none of my technical skills. It was in the ability to reach into the hearts and minds of the people who had these skill sets, who could be effective, and form them together into whatever size army I needed. If I needed 70,000, that's what the call went out for. And of course, that's when it gets scary, because then your top-down command and control become real shaky. You know, at that point, you really let the genie out of the bottle, and whether or not you can control something like that really becomes a huge issue, a huge question. But I can raise a few hundred. Even to now, today, dude, I could go on Twitter literally in the middle of the show if it was live, and I could hack your website. I could have them just by asking. I just, hey, everybody, will you go hack Sean Cerny's website?
I was actually going to ask this question.
Then we'll fix it afterwards. Then we'll fix it afterwards. You know what I mean? But, you know,
I'd be honored by you. I'm just like, but yeah, it's crazy, but it's like, yeah, you have the power, and I'm glad you use your power for good. And
I made mistakes. Look.
Oh, it happens.
Do not Mother Teresa my fucking ass. Okay. Because I let my rage get the better of me more than once, and I put innocent people in harm's way. I've been very honest about that in my books too. You don't fight a war without making mistakes, and those mistakes sometimes get people hurt. Okay. That's the nature of warfare. Okay. That's I think part of being a leader of within a movement like this, especially within a leaderless movement, a horizontal movement. Part of it is learning to realize that you're going to have to live with some shit. This is the baggage. This is my sacrifice. This is what I got to give up. Yeah. Some people are on the front lines. Some people are boots on the ground. Some people are doing the hacking. What the fuck is Commander X doing? Living with his decisions, guys. Okay, living with my choices, and living with not just the lives that we saved, which is great, you know, tip one back, but then, you know, the lives that were lost and were hurt and in some cases destroyed, and not for a good reason. Not, you know, they were collateral damage. You know what I mean? There's a lot of collateral damage in war. And if you're honest about it, you're making that decision up front. That's the thing. That's the key thing is not to, if you're lying to yourself and you're trying to say, oh, I didn't really mean for that to happen. No, I'll tell you for a fact, everybody that got hurt from any hack I ever did, I meant for them to get hurt. Okay. Good or bad or innocent even. That is where the controversy, I think, in the movie about me and whatever, and that's a choice you just have to make when you decide that war is necessary. And I keep using that word because I'm very absolutely cognizant of how serious that word is. They made it a war. They declared war on us. Okay. They came for us. Okay. We didn't start it, but you cannot ask a group of people who are attacked maliciously by the largest empire on earth to simply lay down, oh, okay, we're sorry. We didn't mean to bother you.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. They're going to fight. We fight back. We fight to defend we are literally at one point in Anonymous. It became so intense. The program became so intense that we were literally fighting to defend our own persons and families and friends. It's literally like siege mentality.
Yeah.
Your circle grows that small. You know what I mean? And you're literally just fighting to stay alive. And they started this. They can stop it too. They can stop it anytime. And you know what? Here's an interesting offer that I'll make to the US government. Okay. You pardon me for my horrible, heinous crime of defending homeless people in Santa Cruz by hacking. Okay. You pardon me and you let me come home. Okay. And then you change these laws and you fix this shit, and I'll help you do that. And then I'll go to the hacktivists, and maybe we can put this all back to just protest again. Maybe we can stop it being a war where we're just out to burn everything and get back to what we started as, which is one cause at a time. This is bad. Stop doing it. Thank you. This is bad. Stop doing it. Thank you. And we'll go back to that. You know what I mean? I would easily participate in a program like that to go before my fellow hacktivists and say, look, guys, let's bring it all down a little bit now. We've gotten all the laws changed. All of the hacktivists have been released from prison. We're all good now. We can go back to being protesters again. And just, and that's it. And I would be glad to take it there. That will never happen. You and I both know that, because a bully, and that's what the United States government is. The world's most historically big bully in history. Okay. A bully never gives up. So what do you do with a bully? Well, I'm sorry, but I came from the schoolyards and I was a skinny little geek. And I'll tell you what you do with a bully.
Fight back.
You get 20 other fucking nerds with sticks and you beat the living shit out of him until he's just black and blue. And I tell you what, it literally works every fucking time. Okay. Yeah. Literally every fucking time. So, that's where we're at. Now, I think part of it is sad. I think it was unnecessary, especially. I'm with Glenn Greenwater on this. I love the answer that Glenn, and he's a friend of mine, by the way. We got to meet in Canada personally and sit and spend a few hours together while I was on the run. It was quite exciting and interesting. But Glenn Greenwald said it best, really. They asked him very recently in an interview, why don't you attack China? Why don't you attack North Korea? Those are horrible, brutish dictatorships. Why do you spend all your wrath on the bastion of liberty, the United States of America? And he's like, dude, what good would it do? What good would writing 1,000 articles about the brutality of the Chinese regime? It isn't going to literally save a single human being. It's not going to change a single thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It takes.
I can have an effect on the West. I can have an effect on the United States of America and the course of things. And that's why I criticize, the West and Europe and the United States. And I think that's a brilliant question. And that I would just cop to the same answer. We do these things, especially to the United States, because the United States should be the last place where we should have a political dissident. I am the first U.S. citizen. Hold on, I got to show off my green card. I love to show. I don't get to use this thing because they never card me, and they don't really have a lot of police down here. But there's my green card, guys. Okay, and I am the first U.S. citizen in history to successfully claim political asylum in the nation of Mexico. I personally kind of scratch my head and wonder why more journalists aren't writing about that.
Yeah,
I think it's because most of the journalists in the United States of America have their heads stuck straight up the butt of the establishment and the government, and they don't want to talk in the United States of America about Commander X down here having political asylum in Mexico. They don't want to talk about how these people treated me like a king. Okay, guys, when I walked through the door, I didn't have to sleep in a tent in dirt to get my asylum. Okay. And guess what? The only thing they did for me that was extra was I didn't have to stand in the line of Americans that were there to get this. Okay. Because of security. Yeah. Actually, they were afraid to have me around other Americans. How about that my security down here, which is fairly elaborate at this point to protect me, is geared towards keeping me away from Americans down here, dude. They are the biggest danger to me.
Yeah.
I literally have to cry. I am terrified in Mexico City, which has shit tons of Americans, by the way, because any one of those dudes can be the CIA, the FBI, the DEA. They got all kind of fucking cats running around here with badges that aren't supposed to be. You know, they're not supposed to be down here doing that shit. They've been doing that to Mexico for forever. So my entire security is literally designed to keep me away from, partitioned from, and out of sight of Americans in this country. And they are the ones who make me the most nervous. I can walk down my hometown street in the middle of the night and them teenagers drinking in the corners and everything. Not one of them will ever touch me. Okay, I'm part of the community. They all know me. I hire some of them during the day. You know,
you got to keep your circle tight with the.
They're gonna need me. You know, I'm not afraid of Mexicans. There's no crime. There's no crime that threatens me here. Okay, so you know, you guys, you really got to get your heads out of your ass, and people still need to start asking, why are Americans fleeing? Why are people fleeing in general? You have Susie Dawson, who was an occupier and a member of Anonymous, who fled New Zealand from FBI persecution. Now, how does that even happen? How does the FBI get to go over to New Zealand and harass this mother, this single mother, part of Occupy, chase her out of her country, across Europe and into Russia? And she now has, she doesn't, unfortunately, only has refugee status in Russia. And people don't even know this woman's name, but you can go on the internet. I promise you, this is the most incredible story, just as incredible as my own. And she's in Russia, and she's a white, Anglo, English-speaking, single mother who did nothing more than become a spokesman and media person for Occupy Auckland in New Zealand. And the FBI, who were given free reign to operate during the Occupy movement in New Zealand, persecuted her, ran her out of her country. This is gonna become a tidal wave, guys. You are running the best and brightest people out of America on a rail like this was Nazi Germany. And it you know, and I am just a drop in the bucket. And one of the reasons I've been so vocal to tell my story, people ask, why do you want this out? Because I want people to realize you can run too. When they come for you, if you can get away, for the love of fucking God, do it.
Yeah, and in the movie, it shows you can.
You are running from a repressive regime. You are a dissident. Run, and come down here. We'll find a place for you. I promise. I swear to God, if you end up in Mexico, I will seek you out and help you. Okay? All you got to do is get on the other side of that border, and I can do anything down here. I can do anything within inches. I'll go right up to the fucking wall. I've done it before and tease the fucking cops. I mean, I'll go get you, but you got to get in. I can't go back. So you get in here and I'll help you. I want people to know you don't have to stand for this. America has gone so far off the rails now that it is literally an insanity-ridden psychopathic shit show. And Trump was just a symptom. Don't even try to blame Donald Trump. Donald Trump is what you deserved. Donald Trump is the president you guys all earned from fucking 100 years of apathy, from 100 years of not being an anarchist, not being a member of Anonymous, not burning shit to the ground. You ended up with Donald Trump because all of America, even the good people, I'm sorry, but I have spent my entire life since I was 14 years old fighting the man. And so is Julian Assange. And so have a lot of other people. We realized right away, it took the intelligence of a 14-year-old to realize that if I didn't fight for my life, the world was fucked. Completely fucked. You know? So America earned Donald Trump. Now the question is, how do you fix that? How do you come back from that? How do you become some kind of a place that you can be proud of, with a government you can be proud of?
That's such an important question. I don't think enough people are asking it. And even like it's
I'm asking it to the left and the right. I don't have a fucking side, guys. People hate it because I got right wingers that follow me. They're rabid fans. I've got so many Trumpers that love me because I tell people the truth about it. Trump ain't the problem. Okay. Trump ain't the issue here. It don't matter who they put in the big seat. They now have a man you now have a president who had a dollar-sized chunk of his brain cut out. And I'm sorry to say it so brutally, and it shows, guys. I'm sorry, but I think one of the requirements of being the leader of the free world is all of your brain should still be inside your skull. I just think that's like a basic physical requirement. Like a basic physical requirement. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't even care if you can read. You know what I mean? But all of the noodles should still be inside the cup, and they're not. Okay. And I'm not trying to make fun of this man's illness, even though he's one of the most despicable creatures to ever walk the face of the earth. I'm really honestly not. But what I'm trying to point out is that this man is not fit. You want to talk about Trump being unfit because he was a rageaholic and he was a fucking Twitter nutcase. Well, he had more fucking noodles in his head than Biden literally physically does. And you can see it. I'm sorry, it shows. He just wanders off on these fucking, where you're like, what is he even trying to say? Like, you know, you just scratch your head. Like, it's just, he is literally, he is diminished. I guess that would just be the fair way to say he is mentally and intellectually diminished in a physical way. This is a physical problem that's not something like where he's crazy or anything like that, like Trump was. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but
he's cogent. He's cogent, and he has some kind of moral compass. He's trying to.
What does cogent mean? You can wipe his ass still? I mean, what the fuck is cogent?
He can string a sentence together more than Trump ever could.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know about that.
And he shows he has a moral compass. He wants to redistribute some wealth to the poor. That's a pretty good start.
Well, the bottom line is I supported Trump, and people noticed that on Twitter. It's one of my legacies. It's one of the reasons why so many lefties find cause to attack me. But
you don't have to be a lefty to despise Trump. A whole slew of Republicans despise Trump.
I supported Trump. I supported getting Trump in. I didn't support Trump. I supported Trump being president. And there's a difference. I don't support anything he stands for. What I support is the chaos that he brought on. I'm sorry, but I'm an anarchist. And as a strategist and an anarchist, I have seen with my own eyes that the most amount of systemic change comes from chaos.
Yeah, it's kind of like
a simple fucking fact.
Destroy to rebuild type of thing.
Exactly. Sometimes you just have to show the world how ridiculous it all is. And one thing that Trump was beautiful, he was perfect at. He was literally, if you took every president in, I really believe this, every president in history, with the, I will leave one president out only, and that's JFK. God bless him. He gets to be out of this little story analogy I'm going to make. But if you took every other president and literally distilled it into a juice of president and made a golem the ultimate president, it would have been Trump. I'm sorry, but that's it. It is literally the, what's the word I want to use when they draw a funny cartoon of you? What's that word?
Caricature or whatever.
It's literally a caricature. It's literally the ultimate caricature of not just the president of the United States, but of the entire thing, the entire fucking thing. Okay, the entire society of America, the entire thing. He was literally a caricature of it all. He was the ultimate. He didn't smoke cigars, but the ultimate cigar chomping billionaire mogul. He was the ultimate swaggering white fucking racist. He was all of it.
And he was Jimmy Carter into that. Jimmy Carter's 97 and still building houses for poor people.
Right, but what I'm saying is it was important for the world and also for the people in America who still have good heart, who still want to try to make something good. It was important for everybody, for history, for everybody in the world to see what America really is. Trump's only sin was that he was better at hiding it. You know, there are no more. I guess what? I can take a bus. I could take a bus right now to the immigrant camps up in Tijuana. I'll be there in about 5 hours, and I'll bring a camera with me. And you tell me how one fucking thing has changed. Why did the fucking gates not fly open to those camps and those people pour into America when this asshole was elected president? Nothing. You know how many people he let in? 16,000. There are 150,000 people in camps along your border. And you people just sit around and ignore it like, oh, what the fuck? No big deal. They're dying out there. Has Biden even sent them food? No. You know who's there? The UN. That's it. The UN and the Mexican government doing the best they can, really doing the best they can. Those people are struggling so hard to keep order down there and take care of those people.
You can't tell me that everything's just the same. That you've now got a president who believes in a vaccine.
It's worse.
Who's distributed a vaccine, has 100 million people fully vaccinated, and he's trying to give money to the poor. That's very different.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing the difference where it really counts. I really do.
Good points, though, Ian.
I guarantee you Guantanamo's not going to close. I guarantee you they've got prisoners now that have been in there for 25 years with no charge, and they're patently and provably innocent people. It's on and on. The list of things that could be corrected.
I'm not saying there's a perfect presidency. I'm just saying there's a massive difference, and it's heading in the right direction.
Well, first of all, let me just qualify my argument about the whole Trump thing. I didn't think that it had to last forever to accomplish what I needed from Trump. What I needed from Trump, I got. People saw what I firmly believe America really is. It's just that everything normally goes on. All this shit goes on behind closed doors, and then all you get is nice smiley faces who never tweet. Only their assistant tweets for them, and they never do email like Biden. And they come out with all of it. It reminds me of this propaganda video I put out one time with this black guy railing on, and he's like, they dress so beautifully. They're like mannequins in a department store. Okay, so for once with Trump, you didn't get a mannequin. For once, you got the real fucking beef, man. And that's how America really is. And any other thing is a coat of paint covering it up. Okay. Now what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to play it around Biden that America's not really this way. We're better than this. No, you're not.
Well,
nothing's changed.
You only have to look at the news to see that the shootings continue, that it doesn't change overnight.
Yeah, it's a lot of work that has to be done.
You're not going to be able to air this. Yeah. You're going to definitely have to cut this.
And yeah, we're going to make a little cut there. He said something really spicy. If you want to hear what he said, you can listen to the uncut version on our Patreon page, Patreon/The Creative Imbalance. That's always something special for all my supporters. No matter what, you get the raw, uncut versions of all these Zoom calls. This one was a little crazy. I don't know if he wants this out to the general public. And yeah, this show would probably get on the FBI watch list as well. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. This is uncensored. This is real talks. But yeah, you know where to find it if you're interested in listening to that and some other bonus material. But anyways, we're gonna get back into this one right now.
I promise to bring the government down if I'm still alive. My dying breath will be to try to bring the U.S. government down. It should have fallen a long time ago. This is a regime that never should have existed in this world. The 50 states and the 100 or so tribes, their sovereignty is literally. It's like liberation at this point. It's like the Third Reich, dude. I mean, the federal government has literally become this parasitical political layer that serves absolutely no purpose. And I could prove it. If you think that the end of the federal government would be some sort of devastating fucking thing in the United States, then tell me this. How come every time it shuts down, nothing happens? Garbage still gets collected. Roads still get paved. People still go to the hospital. You still breathe, you still work, the money doesn't crash. How come every time the U.S. you know what I wonder? Why turn it back on? It's very expensive. Every time the government shuts down and they do one of those big dramatic shutdowns, well, why turn it back on? And so I really believe that the union was a false thing from the beginning. I believe it was very racist from the beginning. Its only purpose was to rob the states and the tribes of their legitimate, internationally recognized sovereignty. And I think it should all return back to that. I think we just get rid of that. And then if you have these Midwestern states, and I traveled through them as part of my story, Ian will tell you I had to wear a MAGA hat to get to Mexico, because I had to pretend, because I went down the middle of the country, and I literally pretended like I was a MAGA to get through and not have the cops hassle me. And
it was after one of the hurricanes Williams, wasn't it? It was after
If,
Katrina.
if those states want to band together and form their own little pathetic union of like ridiculousness, where abortion is illegal, blacks are banned, and you can shoot anybody you want, and your 11-year-old has a gun, then fine, do that. You band together and you get those states are a country, because there's a cohesive culture there. That's what a nation is. A nation is a cohesive culture. It's a unified ideal and a culture, whether it's based on ethnicity or based on just common ideals. There are no common ideals between somebody who lives in San Francisco and somebody who lives in Oklahoma. I'm sorry, but none, zero. The only thing that's the same is the flag on the post office. So it's time to do that, to get rid of that overarching. And we see the movement is growing in California. We see a huge Cal exit movement. They actually have the petitions, the signatures now to put it to the ballot, to request that the California legislature begin secession proceedings to secede from the union. How shit on is California that a guy that in Silicon Valley who maybe invents one of the coolest fucking computer programs ever, maybe let's be deep about this and say it's for medical even, okay? And his vote is 75% of a vote of a person in Oklahoma. How hard is it for America to understand one person, one vote? The Electoral College makes it not so. It means that a guy in California gets 0.75 of a vote, while a guy in Oklahoma gets 0.14 of a vote. Do the math. That's what it does.
Bill Maher has a great line when he says that there are more people in California called Dakota than there are people in Dakota.
I love Bill Maher, by the way.
Anyway, I'll drop it. I'll let you go on. I know you got questions you want to ask.
Oh yeah, even I know I'm good to talk to you guys forever, but I want to be respectful for your time as well too. I
don't care about my time, but definitely.
Well, yeah, Ian, how are you doing?
Get your questions. Ian's fine. Get your questions in though. Make sure you get anything you want to ask.
Yeah, but no, this has been actually solid, and I actually want to say X to you. It's like I'm moved by your passion. It's even though I do different things in my life too, I'm inspired by that fire you have to do what you feel like you need to do with your time on this earth, and I just want to commend you for that. And also I just kind of want to bring it over to Ian as well, because I just kind of want to hear a little bit more from him as well, in a way like you ended up meeting X when he was in the thick of the shit, on the run. And did you ever have second thoughts of even being associated with him, or when you first met him?
Well, for the first 6 weeks of knowing him, we bonded over literature, because he was reading a thick sci-fi novel on the street with his cowboy hat out, asking for change. So I popped $2 into a cowboy hat because I just had my first novel published. He was reading a thick tome. It seemed far more akin to my state of mind than a cardboard sign asking for a couple of bucks for weed. So I dropped a couple of dollars in there, and we got chatting. There was a very interesting face that looked up at me. And it was very engaging. It seemed like there was a story there. And one of my fortunate situations at the time was that I was not running for a bus or running to get to an office. I was pushing 2 children down the street. So that time allowance compared to the time pressure of running to work or being too busy to consider this, allied to the nosiness of a novelist, meant that we got to chat until my kids had enough and wanted to go to the playground. But at least we had a platform of friendship. And then I went back a few days later and we chatted again. And we spoke over a 6-week period. And I just thought he was a guy in the street, and we bonded over literature, as I say. And it was only after the Brexit vote, it was the day after the Brexit vote, when he was very energized about the result and very enthusiastic and was hopping around and wanted to tell me something. And he said it was great news for Julian. And well, who's Julian? Well, Julian Assange. Why? What's that got to do with you? Well, first of all, why? It's because if the UK leaves the European Union, then because it's an EU warrant, then they'd have to tear up the warrant. well, how could this possibly benefit you? He said, well, I speak to him or communicate with him on a regular basis. And I'm going to tell you something now that you may not believe, but I can corroborate it. And he told me who he was, who he is, and that this could be verified by a 24-page article in the New Yorker from September 2014 by David Kushner called The Masked Avengers, and that I should go home and read it. And I did. And I thought, well, this sounds like it could be him, but there were no pictures. There were physical descriptions. But there was also a name in there, and it wasn't the name that he was using on the street in Toronto, which was Gordon Powell. There was a name which was Christopher Mark Doyon, which I cross-referenced and Googled, and up popped his mugshot from when he was arrested in Indiana at a Grateful Dead gig and served 7.5 years for it, of a 12-year stretch. And then I realized that the guy in the park, sleeping in the park and asking for money on the steps of the Ukrainian church, was the guy in the New Yorker article. Prior to that, I thought we may have a Fisher King type character on our hands, which was equally as intriguing to me. Whether this was true or not, both are equally valid. Only one you could make a documentary about, but that was certainly not my intent. I went back home, and there was a chap living in my building at the time who had a background in the film business. I have a background in the international television business, but he had a background in the film biz on more of the creative side of knowing what makes a good story. But he was also interested in the spy world. So when I told him what had happened to me in this chap that I'd met, he walked past to go check him out and came back. And I wanted a sounding board. I wanted to know how bloody weird this was. I was finding it hard to gauge. Is this as worthy and as bizarre as I believe it to be? And he said, yeah, it certainly is. So very shortly after that, I introduced this chap to Fella, and we made a lovely little triumvirate for the best part of a year. And we filmed, and we spoke to Vice about making a documentary, and I had a director fly over from the UK who seemed like he was the perfect choice, but that fell through.
Actually, I just want to point out that director that came from England that time. He arrived in time. We held a party for the release of my first book. Ian was kind enough to rent me an Airbnb, and we went. Well, we all gathered.
It was the night of the Icelandic election.
Right, and we filmed all of that. But he actually, that night I signed one of my books for Julian, and he then brought that under my instruction to the embassy. He delivered my book to Julian for me, gave it to Julian, went to the embassy and gave it to him. And I just want to point out that at this point, that book is now in the possession of the FBI, because the FBI are in possession of all the garbage bags of stuff that they took out of Julian's apartment in the embassy. So that book kind of made it home. It kind of went full circle. I just hope Julian got a chance maybe to read it before. I know he's very excited about it. He talked a lot about it in private. So, but hopefully he got a chance to actually thumb through it. But.
Oh wow!
So it was from the May of 2016 through to the September of 2017 when Fella left Toronto. So it was a period just over a year. I've written a manuscript that I'm speaking to my publisher about, which is called My Year of Living Anonymously. So that's in the pipeline. He and I are talking about the possibility of a scripted drama. Because as much as I love the documentary, there's only so much you can do in 90 minutes. And there are so many of his greatest hits that are not mentioned. There's the BLM stuff, there's Israel, there's the Vatican, there's Turkey, there's Steubenville. There's
this could be a whole election. Netflix series. Like each one of those is like an episode.
As sort of like an X-File, a Commander X-Files, if you will,
cool.
Whereby X's search for a bona fide status in a country that will have him is Fox Mulder looking for his sister, and within that you can have hour-long episodes of the weird Grateful Dead acid stuff, and the heavy political stuff. So it runs that gamut in the same way that the X-Files used to run that gamut. Yeah. But it's I liken it to.
That was brought up in the movie, so I think it's legitimate that I speak to it.
A real life Mr. Robot meets Jacob's Ladder.
Hold on.
And it's,
I think it's together. I think it's legitimate that I speak to this because it was brought up in the movie. It's important to realize that was part of the continuum. I was an activist since I was literally ran away from home because my parents were abusive, and that's protest. I mean, so the whole idea of LSD at the time for us was a weapon against the establishment. I mean, we saw it with our own eyes. It was impossible to remain a conservative dickhead after you ate acid. Only one or two things happened. You either became cool or you went crazy and you died. And believe it or not, we were okay with that. I mean, in our youthful ignorance, we were okay with that dichotomy. But that's what acid was to us. And it was, they even wrote a book somewhere. I have no idea who, but this lady wrote a book and she interviewed me literally for weeks. It's the longest interview I ever did. It was weeks. She was trying to dig out the connection between MIT hackers, the Grateful Dead, and the acid head, the Owsley acid heads. And she was pretty sure she found it. And what was really interesting is, for some reason that I will never quite fathom, because it didn't seem the way it seemed to me at the time. I mean, the interview was interesting because a lot of my perspectives were not the way she saw things as a researcher, but I just didn't get it. I was like, how do I become somebody important in that nexus? But the fact that she saw it, I just want to bring that up, that those days were not about, well, for some people it was about thrashing around and seeing how much fun you could possibly have in America. As Jerry Garcia himself said it, fun with a capital F, fun as fun can possibly be. I mean, I'm all about that. I'm good. And I indulged. I'm not going to say I didn't have fun. I mean, that would be fucking stupid to say you went to 400 Dead shows and say you didn't have fun.
Yeah,
of course
it's a party.
I had fun,
good music.
But the money that we raised, which was considerable in our nefarious endeavors, was used almost exclusively, I can say, and not out of any kind of ethic or morality. It's just what we did. We took that money and we went and did ELF fucking ops and did ALF ops, and then later on we did hacking. I mean, that's what we used the money for. And the acid was just the beautiful icing on the cake, because we were very convinced, and I am still somewhat scientifically convinced that LSD was having the effect on people that we thought it was. It was liberating the world. I firmly believe that America's only saving grace, literally its only saving grace, is 30 US dead tours. Literally 30 US dead tours and billions of hits of LSD that we distributed during those tours. And that is literally, those people are now Joe Biden. Those people are now, those people grew up and became the government and became the cops and became regular people, or became cyber revolutionaries even, right? Yeah. Who knows what anybody in that milieu was going to become? But they all went on to become something. They all became into their own personal power in life, and they took those ideals of psychedelia into that venue. And I firmly believe it's the only salt, it's the only leavening in all of this. And it's just ridiculously beyond coincidence how many people you talk to that are cool, that are my age, that are like, oh, of course I was a deadhead back then. Jay Wiederman, my lawyer, Jay on the movie. And that's the first thing. He's like, "Hey, are you a deadhead?" Some of the little the memes that you've tweeted out, man. What's with the skull and roses, man? And then we laugh and we start comparing what shows we went to and everything.
Oh,
Jay Wiederman's he's an avid deadhead. So yeah. I think that it's important to understand in the context of the Commander X movie, the context of the story, that isn't just some wild little interesting sexy tangent that you can tack on a story about me to draw people in. It was actually part of the deal. It's part of the resistance. And it was incredibly effective, to the point where the government just didn't know what to do with Jerry or any of them or us, or they made a movie, Universal Pictures. I'm in it. Universal Pictures. It's called Tie Dyed, America's Most Devoted Rock Bands. And it's by Universal Pictures. They toured with us for 2 summers, man. And they hired me to be a kind of a fixer, like go around and make sure people didn't get weirded out by the cameras and shit. And when the movie was sold, the trailer, it was, it completely anti-intuitive marketing. They're like, if you are coming to this show to hear Grateful Dead, this movie, to see the Grateful Dead play music, don't bother. There's not 1 second of Grateful Dead music in this movie. This
it's
movie,
about the movement,
This movie is about the fans.
Yeah.
And that when they did that, when that trailer came out, I was like, holy shit. And so even back then, you could see me, I'm giving interviews to fucking local news about the Deadheads and telling the locals, don't panic. We're not going to burn your city down. I promise. Yes, we do drugs, but we're going to leave. We got another show to go to, I mean, it's like, it was even back then, I seemed to gravitate to like some sort of leadership or some sort of, mouthpiece position that has been, I guess, just that's my role in everything in life. I guess that's the role I play. But you could see. I've
just found it. I've known you for a long time. I find out something new every time.
Yeah. It's an incredible.
There's so many layers to them.
Listen. I didn't know how they. Now that's
who are you?
That's the first movie. Now I've been involved in other movies. I've been involved in Brian's movie. Brian's in my movie now, Brian Knappenberger. But I also was involved in his work, We Are Legion. I also helped him with the Aaron Schwartz movie as well. And so I've been involved in a lot of movies. But that was my first, and I was like really blown away. I was like in my 20s, and I'm like, and they really made for a moment a little bit of a big deal about me, but also a big deal about what we were doing with following this band around. And I was really worried back then that they wouldn't get it right, that they would really slaughter it and make us look horrible and stupid, because it's really tough to make us look good. I mean, you really have, when you take just a normal person with a suit and a tie and you walk into a Grateful Dead parking lot, it's going to take a lot for you to make some sort of sense of the complete and absolute
it's like
chaos
going to a different planet.
Right. You really, it's going to take you a minute to find out what the meaning is there and what the gist of it is. But once you dig into it like Universal did, you see that it was a tribal culture. It was definitely it spawned an entire, and to this day continuing, culture of people who live in their vehicles in the UK and in the United States. You can look that up, but there are these, they call themselves road gypsies, or they have various other names for themselves. But that whole thing sprang out of just the absolute necessity of living on the road.
Nomadland just won an Oscar. I think it's in that vein, isn't it?
They get to fly, the rock band that you're chasing gets to fly there in airplanes, and you've got a microbus to get there in, you know what I mean? So the whole road thing really just evolved out of necessity, but it became a culture unto itself. The rainbow people kind of also spring, the rainbow gatherings, and that culture, I got to even see that as it evolved and then sprung loose, almost hatched like an egg out of the womb, if you will, of the Grateful Dead. So the Grateful Dead spawned so much, that little band, that little garage band from San Francisco spawned so much that changed everything. And LSD was one big part of that. And so I just think it's important. I'm coming back around because it's important to understand the Commander X, that is not like an outlier. That is where it begins. That is where I begin to look at things like a drug and how it can be a weapon against the establishment.
That's fucking awesome.
That's where I start to look at things like, that's where I start to understand things like iconography and imagery. Because, you look at that skull, the skull and roses, right?
Yeah.
And Jerry Garcia, I met him a bunch of times. People don't know he hated that. And he told me his famous line. He said it right to my face, and he said it so many times before in the press and everything. He goes, someday they're going to sacrifice a kid underneath that symbol, and we're going to be done as a band. It's the worst thing ever invented for the Grateful Dead was that fucking skull. And he hated that shit. But that was, but it moved a movement. How you felt when you walked into a parking lot and the local venue had taken the time to put up a literally gigantic hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meters in square tapestry up against, say, the wall of the stadium of that skull, that steal your face skull, that Skull and Roses, and you're like, God damn, they knew we were coming, and you just felt like you were part of something. You felt like you were part of something that was huge and that was changing the world. And it was, because on so many levels, it's not just the acid, although that was huge, but then there's the idea that music can change you and make you think, and can change, politics, and can change society. There was the idea of communal socialism, all of us living together on the road and having to learn how to build a society that was almost as entirely self-sufficient as you could possibly get, because nobody liked us, everybody hated us. You know what I mean? I mean, all of that was part of what then Commander X comes out of that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The ideals and everything come out of that. It's not that I didn't appreciate the Bacchanalian aspect. It's not that I didn't appreciate the artistic aspect, which will forever move me on a level of as a writer and as an artist. Okay. So I all of that is there. It's not that I was, just torn with the dead so I could go get money to burn barns down, but the depth of it, the deepness of it, is, and why I clung to it for so long, is my firm belief that this was something potent to change the world. This wasn't just standing in the street with a cardboard sign and getting gas changed the world. This was fundamentally, systemically, within the next few years, change the world. When Cheerios cereal started giving away friendship bracelets that we invented, okay, as a prize in their cereal, and we saved it for years. I don't know if my friend David still has it, but we had a case of those Cheerios, Honey and Oats Cheerios is what they were, and they gave away deadhead friendship bracelets. They even called them friendship bracelets.
Oh, okay, cool. Because even that's a common term in the 90s too. Yeah,
we have now entered fucking mainstream, culture in America.
You broke the barrier.
And even President Clinton and Al Gore actually attended. It was very famous. I actually got a glimpse of him from about 5 miles away when he attended the Grateful Dead show with his daughters in Washington, D.C. Al Gore did. That was a very famous moment. When he actually walked around the parking lot with, and they actually told us not to leave. They're like, we were like, God, the Secret Service is all over. Do you want us to leave? It's like, do you got a gun? And I was like, no. Do you got a knife? No. Then you don't leave. You're supposed to be here. The daughters want to see the deadheads. You know what I mean? So we're literally like trapped by the Secret Service. At one point, we were almost semi-imprisoned, on the parking lot so that Gore and his daughters could walk around and get a taste of authentic. I was like, so we should smoke pot, right? And of course, the place reeked of pot. It's extra special for them. You know what I mean? But
you probably didn't even have to smoke to get high in that building.
Yeah,
you just walk in.
So I just want to say that I know that's a very sexy part of the documentary. I know for Ian especially, he finds that part very intriguing and sexy. But from my perspective, I really see it as one very solid continuum. It's really kind of a core that I've clung to and am somewhat proud of. I mean, that to me kind of survives somehow without, completely losing myself or going crazy or whatever. There's a thread there that goes throughout it all that is, again, looking around, trying to find these tools and not being satisfied. The key thing is not being satisfied with old school activism. I really didn't find the 60s activism all that impressive. I didn't think that marching around by the millions in the streets with cardboard signs and just allowing yourself to be brutalized and jailed day after day, I don't see that as all that effective. I'm sorry. I have respect for people who do, because it's brutal, but I just really don't think it's the most effective way. And that's why when I came upon things like the Dead or ALF or ELF or any of that sort of thing, where I see shock and awe being utilized, I see in a passive way, but in a very effective way. I want to point out that in all the arsons that ELF ever is responsible for or been blamed on us, not a single house mouse, not a single field mouse, not a single living thing was ever harmed in any of those buildings. They were scouted for hours. We took such huge risks. It's unbelievable. We would live in them for days. We would move into a place we were going to burn. People don't even know this because it's not even been talked about on the ELF If a Tree Falls documentary, they don't even talk about this because they didn't really interview a whole lot of real ELFers, but we would go move into those and squat in them just to make sure, we would live in them if we could break into them and camp out in them. That's what we would do to make sure that it was safe. So
yeah. I want to mention too, one thing I love about talking one thing I love about talking with you guys today is just hearing everything around the movie. Like I know they sent you to promote the movie, but it's so cool to get all these extra like tidbits without spoiling the story.
Whoa. If you put your part that you just said, your part that you just said in your shows, then you got to put my rebuttal. That is
yeah, definitely.
That is absolutely a falsehood. I am not here to promote fucking anything, not even fucking Commander X. Okay. Yeah. This is not what this is about. Number one, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. I'll unbox that for you. But also, I want to also just add an addendum that might pop into people's minds when you say that. I don't make any money from this. That's not how documentaries work. Okay, I am dirt poor, okay? And I have a committee of activists down here in Mexico City who work very hard every day. They're called the Friends of X, to provide literally everything for me, literally everything, my housing, my bills, my dog food. It doesn't matter what it is, medical needs, everything. They have been handed over my personal Twitter account of 10 years, and they utilize, I'm no longer have any I don't even use it. They use it to promote the Friends of X committee, and also Julian Assange, which is, they've got my blessing to promote Julian Assange stuff. And they use that. And so I am, I have nothing whatsoever to gain by talking to you. Okay.
But you are getting stuff that no other.
I know that, and I want to say I appreciate this. This is again your time and everything.
This is again just another instance of me trying to use you. You are now the latest tool in the hand of Commander X to try to make a difference in the world. That's all this is ever going to be about.
I'm honored.
That's all this is ever going to be about. Okay. Yeah. I did this movie, and it was asked, this sort of lends itself to a question you might have asked, and other interviewers in this movie process have asked Ian and me, why did I do it? And the simple answer is not even as complicated as yours, Sean. I did it because Ian asked me to, and he's my friend. And I stand by my friends. And so that's actually it. You know, it's totally that's it. And there, you know, so I want people to understand I'm here because I want to be. I'm here to promote Jesus Christ, get off your ass and go do something to help the world. That's what I'm here to promote. And I don't care. I mean, I don't care how you got to wrap that in what kind of candy wrappers. If watching me eat acid on the parking lot of a Grateful Dead show on a movie makes you motivated to go out and help, I don't care what it takes. So I really don't even care how ridiculous it has to get. And that's kind of how Commander X is so ridiculous on a lot of levels, is because I really actually don't give a shit how far I got to go to convince you. And I'm talking to you, the person listening to this show right now, okay, whatever I got to do to convince you to get up and do more to help the world. I'm not saying, you know, I don't know you. I'm not saying you're not doing anything, but you can do more. I promise you can do more. And you need to. We're in a crisis. We're in an emergency. I would tell really young people as a final message, a closing message, I would tell especially really young people, don't look to Commander X. I mean, read the stories, maybe get some cool tactics and stuff like that out of it. Look to people like Greta Thunberg, who her righteous rage and anger is only missing a good vocabulary of swear words. If I can get to the girl and teach her how to say fuck, we will have her. She'll be the final polish. Okay, so all that poor little girl needs, and she's perfect. She is fucking perfect. She is fucking perfect, guys. And you need to turn to people like that, and you need to embrace that rage, man. And you need to listen to her, because if you can write me off, okay, you can say Commander X is this 8-year-old old man, okay, that Ian Thornton found on the streets of fucking Toronto. You can write me off, and that's legitimate, man. But that girl is one of the brightest, most intelligent, and she's just a kid, what, 16, 17? That That's who you want to follow somebody, man, follow that girl. Go where she's going, man, because I'm telling you, that's real. That's real. This is an emergency, folks. And she's got her level she's talking about that I agree with her is super 100% priority. And that's the environment and the planet. But then there's lots of other levels that I've like what I've worked on, which I believe firmly that a good environment is worthless without free people. So we need good free people. So I took on that part of it because that was my expertise. I mean, that was where I was good at. But all of it comes together to a righteous rage because all of this stuff now has reached a boiling point. We got 10 years on the environment. We got 10 years on the politics, guys. The nations and the empires are going to blow to pieces if we don't do something within 10 years. So it's all now, all of these trigger things, these huge trigger things are now all down to the wire. Because we have not done our job as human beings. We have not fixed stuff that we should have fixed for not just our lifetime, but many, many generations. And now we're down to this point where it's like sirens in the streets should be going off. I love Greta when she says that. I don't understand why the fucking goddamn siren, the earthquake siren isn't going off 24/7. The world is ending, people. This is not hyperbole. This is not fantasy. So if you can't believe an 8-year-old old man like me and my story, and that doesn't inspire you, please, for the love of God, young people, look to somebody like that. You can't deny her unless you're going to sit down at her level and do it. And she's saying the same thing I'm saying. What I find beautiful about that is, in her own way, in her own style, she's wrapping it up, but with the equal amount of rage and an equal amount of I really don't give a fuck what I say. I mean, she is almost the Commander X of her generation in a lot of ways. I mean, she is the outlier. She is that incredibly outrageous persona that is really going to put her nose to your face and make you hurt. And even when you thought you were a good person around Greta, you hurt, and you should. We all should. We got to keep pushing, guys. We can turn it around. But it's going to take that kind of effort, that kind of charisma, and that kind of, you got to just get up and do something, man. We all got to get up off our ass and say, we've had enough, and we're going to fix this. We're just going to fix it ourselves.
We've got to take action. And I want to give you that final word for this segment. And just thank you. I feel inspired, man. Like, I really appreciate both of your time today.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Again, please don't think that I'm here to promote anything. I really, honest to God, and I don't want to break Ian's heart because I know he'll be so mad at me after the show, but I really don't give a shit if you
broke it long ago.
I really don't.
You guys are lifers.
I really don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit if you go to see the movie, guys. I really don't. I mean, and to be honest with you, if you can pirate that shit, please do it, man. Don't go broke or go without a meal for your family to see some stupid schlep like me get his 15 minutes of fame. Okay. I love the movie. I love Gary. I love everything he's done, but I'm not here to promote anything. If you feel that going to the movie would educate you about me, and you feel that I can in any way help you, even vicariously, to do more, to help us in this next, especially this next 10 years, then that goal is achieved. Then go see the movie. Then please do. But if you're at all bothered by me, if you're at all worried about whether it's worth the money, then just don't go see it.
Well, there is a vote at the end of the film festival for the best film in the film festival.
Oh, we hacked that shit.
No.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, he can just
the fix is in, man. Come on. This is Commander Anson talking to you.
They got 4 million votes.
Dude, you're talking about.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
Who did we get elected? Ian, you got to remind me of the anonymous history. Who did we get elected to Time Man of the Year? Remember that story? Anonymous, hacked the polls, hacked the time poll, and we got who was it? Somebody completely ridiculous. We got elected to Person of the Year on time, and of course they didn't abide by the vote. That's when they decided, oh well, we don't have to abide by the vote. It's just a way to gauge public opinion, right? So, but come on, we can fix that shit. I don't mean to diss the movie because I think Gary did an absolutely amazing job.
He did, absolutely, yeah. Thanks to Gary. Thanks to Ed Baraveld at Storyline Productions. Thanks to TVO.
Yeah, they've been very great. They were great to me.
They made a bit of a dream come true. I need to tell you this, Sean, because at one point I had Werner Herzog on board to direct, which happened so ridiculously easily. I called a friend from my TV background who put in a call to Andre Singer, who's Werner's long-term producer, and in the space of a weekend, Werner Herzog on board. And he's calling me on my line. And Werner Herzog calling me. He wants to do this movie.
It's meant to be, and it's such a fucking crazy story too. Yeah.
And there's a great line in Withnail. Well, there are many great lines in Withnail and I, but one of the great ones is, "We've gone on holiday by mistake." Well, this was very apt in this situation because I'd almost made a Werner Herzog movie by mistake.
That's amazing.
and we only lost Werner when he went off to Moscow to make the Gorbachev biography with Andre.
Even if this doesn't end up on the air, I just want to say that I didn't mean to diss or diminish Ian's efforts or Gary's efforts or Ed's efforts in this movie. I think it's fantastic. They did an incredible job. I recall when they showed up here in Mexico, and my friend and me had worked together to provide them with hospitality and whatnot. And I actually own a small piece of a coffee house. Me and my friend, I invested in his coffee house down here in Mexico, and he's Mexican. And when they arrived, I have to say there was probably at least, they brought with them, I want to say conservatively, a ton, like literally like a measurement, a ton, not like a ton like you use metaphorically, but like
a real
a ton of gear. And they piled it all up, and it literally, like we had to close the dining room and move all the tables and everything out of the way because there was this huge stuff I really didn't understand what purpose it was even going to serve. I mean, movie stuff, like, you know, and my friend looked at me, he's like, "Jesus Christ, they really are making a movie about you, dude." And I was like, "I told you, I'm sorry, dude, but they're here." I mean, because it was really hard for him. I mean, he worked hard. Vic worked hard. I want to give a shout out. Vic's in the movie, by the way, and I want to give a shout out to Victor. But Victor really bent over backwards. And
I should also point out, Sean, that the way that the movie got made was a byproduct. This guy was my friend a long time before I even knew who he was. It happened organically. It happened because I had a background in international TV that allowed it to happen more easily than it would have done anyway. But for the longest time, he was just my friend. So there was no master plan.
Just like the stars aligning, and it's just something that made sense to do. It was fucking awesome.
I think is mentioned in the film. It's a beautiful random nature of the universe, and to find gold at shin height, and there is a man who's sleeping in a park and bringing down dictators on the same day as he's asking for $2, and as he brought down, helped to bring down Ben Ali in Tunisia and Mubarak in Egypt while he's sleeping in the park. And it's minus 35 outside. Fast forward, and these guys are living in gold palaces. They're murderers. They're taking lives. Fast forward 3 years, Ben Ali is in exile, and he dies, and he's buried in Saudi soil. And Mubarak dies in a prison in Cairo. Meanwhile, this chap is now swinging in a hammock in Mexico, sipping a margarita with his 2 dogs, reading of their death. And if I live to be 250 years old, that will never take a smile off my face.
Yeah, that's so fucking beautiful to me. I'm like, bless you, X. Bless you, Ian.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate your time so much today. This was probably one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. And just again,
he hasn't finished yet. He can carry on.
Oh yeah, he can continue to talk. This is like what the platform's for.
No, I'm actually good, but I will add that if you ever want to come back to either fix this one, like if you need something in the next day or two, emergency wise, let me know.
Yeah, ditto.
Get with Ian, and also if you ever need something from the future, you're a decent chap. I normally refuse interviews. I'm only doing only the interviews that come through Ian and the movie company right now, but I would definitely probably sit down with you again and talk. So,
hey guys, I hope you enjoyed part 2 featuring Commander X. Oh, this was such an awesome episode, and I thank Ian and X so much for their time. This was a classic, and like I mentioned, there's a little extra bonus material if you want to check out the raw Zoom call on our Patreon. Even we spoke after this, and there could be a part 3, and me and X have been in contact, so let me know if that is something you are interested in, and we'll make it happen, guys. But speaking of the Patreon, I gotta give all you legends a big thank you. First off to the co-producer Jeremy Hopkin of Hopkin Design, and all the rest of you: Ola Mazuka of Sonic Fold, Ryan Watkins of Ryan Radio, Pat Maloney, Ryan Campbell, Daniel Sun, Devin Staple, Drew Stewart, Mike Ulio, Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd. She's on the next episode. And last but not least, Francis Copper, aka my mom. Thanks again. If you want to support, patreon.com/The Creative Imbalance, and follow us on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, all that. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
I see the cops on that catch and release. I let a pop if they ask me to freeze. Fuck 12.